so humbled today to connect with a real spirit of music passed down from the lineage of his family and his ancestors through the diaspora of his people from the motherland of Africa. He makes the string bass look seemingly effortless playing it, even though what he's doing is quite complex. The ultimate definition of genius is making something very complex look very easy. He's collaborated with so many heavy cats in his career, and if we're lucky, he has many chapters still left to write. Yaka Don Pate, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you.
You know, can I ask you a question? When you went to New England Conservatory,
Right.
Can you talk about if you tried it? I remember talking to Abe Laboriel, and they didn't even recognize the electric bass as an accredited instrument at Berkeley in the early 70s. And I wasn't sure if you had any involvement with trying to assimilate the I know you play bass fiddle too, but I wasn't sure if you had an opportunity to integrate the electric bass into a jazz context, or in at the conservatory.
I did, but it came after, because when they gave me a scholarship, it was for playing the string bass. And when I first came to Boston, to Berkeley, I didn't even own an electric bass. But I bought one, to take to school with me. And ultimately, I learned how to play it.
Can you talk? I remember interviewing this great bass player, Putter Smith, on the West. His brother Carson played with Chico Hamilton, and one night he got a call from Woody Herman, about 74, and the bass player was sick. He had to come down for the gig. He hustles down there with his upright bass, and Woody looks at him. He goes, "Why'd you bring that, man?" Basically, the upright bass was almost. It's just interesting because the upright bass was almost taken out once rock and roll really hit with Sly Stone and Jimi Hendrix and Buddy Miles and all these cats, Billy Cox. Music got louder, and yet when I listen to your playing, it still seems. I guess the question I have for you, Yaka, is how did you learn? How did you cultivate your sound with using only your soul and physicality? Because you came up at a time when there was really no amplification. You were playing out of antiquated PA systems. You didn't necessarily have monitors on stage. So you had to fill the room with your sound through physicality and through soul. And I kind of wanted you to talk to younger cats about how you cultivated that.
Well, my first teacher basically was a German guy in Chicago whose name was Rudolf Fassbinder. And he also taught Richard Davis and a few other people.
Stafford James, maybe?
Could be,
yeah.
And ultimately, he knew that I was interested in, a lot of different things. And at the time that I was in high school, I was playing football. And he told me he wasn't going to tell me not to play football, but he told me that if my hands ever ended up underneath, cleats, I could forget about playing the bass. So,
dude, you came up. Were you even wearing the protective gear wasn't even. I don't even know how you played football back then, man. There were no.
Right.
The helmets weren't even with that intense. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But ultimately, what happened was he was okay with me playing football, but the football coach wasn't okay with me playing the bass. So that made my choice pretty easy. I ran a little track in lieu of playing football, and ultimately I credit track with giving me the perseverance to pursue music and jazz, as it is, which was basically going inside myself and coming up with whatever I came up with. And it's funny because of the people that you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation. I did have a few studio moments with Sly Stone when I first went to California.
Whoa, dude!
Yeah.
Was he? He was. This was after he was a DJ. He was full on Sly at that point.
Oh yeah.
Well, I want to go back for a second. This is really fascinating. I mean, just going back to this German cat, your teacher. The masters of this music, Yaka, like, they could fill a room with their sound alone. Dizzy, Stan Getz. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
Senator Eugene Wright. That dude never had a monitor, and he was just cooking. And I just wanted, going back to that question about, you talked about perseverance, running track, being dog tired, the jazz lifestyle, like, completion and all this stuff that goes into it. But ultimately, it's like, how did you learn to not be above, not, saturate people with your sound, but hit them right in their soul without any amplification? How did you learn to do that?
Well, I was blessed to be born in a house where there were two basses. and the basses were, I call them opposites. One is, I'll call it pre-war K for blind bass.
Right.
American bass. And the other one is a German, I guess round back. And basically the German was the workhorse of the two. To me, the blonde was a girl. It was pretty, and it was nice in the upper register, but the real bottom came from the German bass.
Wow.
And it was it was the hardest to play, but it also had the biggest sounds. So between that and various repairmen with different bridges and sound posts and all of that, I ultimately found a way, to play acoustically before I started to dabble, with pickups. Back in the day, there are various ways of using a pickup. And, different people did use different pickups. So depending on where you were and who you were with, either you brought your own or you encountered a sound man that made you sound better than you actually did.
It's so beautiful, man. My God.
Yeah, right.
Your father, was your father at Chess Records? I mean, where, can you talk a little bit about, because I kind of just flashed on guys like Phil Upchurch and, all the blues that were coming out of there. But as a young, I've talked to so many cats who were living the music when they were underage. It'd be unheard of today.
Well, first of all, my dad will be 102 in December. And he's quite active.
He's with us. Johnny Pate's still with us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my, dude, this is making my day, Yaka. Dude, that dude he's a seminal cat, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, did he kind of leave you to your own devices, or were you kind of, because he was one of the greatest, he is one of the greatest arrangers of all time, and I just want you to talk about, his impact on your sound, if at all.
Well, basically, he told me very early on that developing my own sound and my own style would be to my advantage. He said, because if I really wanted to play, I'm asking for the same jobs as Richard Davis, Ron Carter, Buster Williams.
Dude, Bob Cranshaw, dude. Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. All of those guys.
Oh, my. Yeah, no, you're up against it, man. Yeah.
And as a member of the, I don't know, bass players in particular, I think I have a union, within themselves, and that they're brothers, or they like each other, or I don't find much jealousy amongst bass players. Most bass players are, they like each other, and they exchange information and instruments as well.
Wow.
So luckily, most people that had encountered my dad were happy, for the experience, and were glad to help me in any way that they could. And Cranshaw was also one of those people that did that as well. So.
I want to be clear. You grew up in Chicago, and your father was there. When did he go? Or did he go to New York?
He was there. He was in Chicago the whole time. Basically, my dad was, like you mentioned, chess and all of that. Well, if you think about Curtis Mayfield, he runs everything for Curtis, from everything I'll say, from Gypsy Woman through Superfly.
Oh, my God. Wait, Pate, yeah, you're right. Johnny Pate was on this Superfly, man. Holy cat. Yeah, Kurt Tom. He was on doing Kurt Tom stuff in chess.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you, like, initially when he started, it was Curtis and Jerry Butler. I think For Your Precious Love might have been one of the first hits that he did. And ultimately, after dealing with chess and Shy Sound and all of that, he would be like the arranger at the Regal Theater. In those days, Regal and Tivoli had stage shows, music along with the movies. So basically, he would be the arranger and conductor for the big band, accompanying almost all of the singers. And besides Curtis, there was.
It was like Baby Huey. Earlier. I'm not sure. I feel like I've seen him on like Young Holt, maybe that, or maybe Ramsey Lewis stuff. What was the earliest stuff your dad did?
Well, him and Ramsey both had trios at the same time.
He had. Oh my God. They were, because Ramsey. Who was in your dad's trio?
My dad's trio varied. Most of the time, the pianist was a guy named Ronell Bright.
Oh my God!
And the drummer for a while was Vernell Fournier, because the other thing that he did was he played with Ahmad Jamal, who I also ended up playing with for a while.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on. Time out for a second. Your dad was in a trio with Vernell Fournier.
Yeah. In other words, he played with Ahmad before he had his own trio. And ultimately, he sent Richard Davis to New York because he had come to New York with Don Shirley. but he wasn't ready to move to New York because of his family situation. And Richard Davis said they gave him all of the work because they couldn't get Johnny Pate. So,
dude, this is so this. I mean, when your dad played with Ahmad, it was before Poinciana came.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So this was like hard bebop they were playing.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, they went from bebop to pop or to covers or whatever because at the time they used to play at the London House, and then there was another place called the Birdhouse where Quincy Jones had a big band.
Oh my God, the Birdhouse, dude.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So I mean, basically, I was in a nightclub once a week, hearing some music or hearing some jazz, and if I wasn't hearing it there, they were coming by the house rehearsing,
Yaka, I mean, this is so. I mean, when you would go to the night, I just want you to break this down because I live in Tucson, and we have a farm system here of ridiculous cats, and I'm not even talking about facility or chops or anything like that. I'm just talking about concepts and sort of just a punk attitude to the whole thing. And I'm not saying, Ahmad Jamal, one of the most beautiful players and just a funky bluesy cat, and he could play classical stuff too. But when when Train or McCoy would get on the bandstand, if there was sheet music on the bandstand, that was considered a rehearsal. And I see today with my younger friends in their 20s and stuff, even though they don't need it, they still feel this need to have a net. Maybe it's an iPad or it's the sheet music. And I realize that sometimes you don't have a chance to work out the tunes perfectly. But there's something about the jazz essence, the essence of the jazz life, which is like you internalize the music the best you can, you woodshed, you practice, and then you let it all go, and you just let it hang out. And if you hit a clam, maybe everyone will go with you. I mean, can you talk about sort of there was no music on the bandstand with your dad playing with Ahmad and Vernell?
Well, I want to reflect back to when I played with Ahmad. Sometimes he'd write something out on a napkin or just a little piece of paper.
Exactly.
And it might have been just a portion of the tune or a bridge or an interlude leading into another tune. But most of the time, people wanted your version, of what they were going to get. Because, basically that's how jazz found its way. What you came up with was going to be more accurate than actually what was on the paper. The paper basically was just a roadmap to, which way to turn.
Right.
Or, And
would Ahmad use some hand signals too? Like he'd put up a 1 or a 2 like that, right?
Always.
Dude, this is so unbelievable. Because a horn player, Paul McCandless, when I was asking, because it's all about nonverbal communication, Yaka. It's not. You can I remember somebody saying to me, I think it was Ndugu Chancellor, who was talking about Hampton Hawes, and like. Hamp was like, geez, we've been sitting here for a half hour talking about the music. We haven't played one note yet. And it's like, there's no need to, people want to intellectualize the music, but that's not jazz per se. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And it's, can you just, so you're, at a certain point, you started to play with Ahmad, or was that later in your career? Or were you playing with him when you were still in Chicago?
Well, I met him as a child, right? But I really didn't play with him until I came to New York.
Right.
And actually, probably Roy Haynes is responsible for a lot of, I don't know what happens with me in the rhythm section. And his whole thing was, let's just play.
That man. Rest in peace, Roy Haynes. I mean, explain what it means by just play. Like in terms of the idea of for just allowing yourself to be a vessel, totally clear, totally open to the muse of the music. That to me is the most sophisticated, highest form of playing music.
Well, with Roy was almost a school in a way for better bands. As soon as he would get somebody in his band, that he liked or that worked, somebody who was paying more money would come and snatch him or steal him. So that required, folks to be ready to, it's like playing ball or whatever. Next man up.
No, it's just like it's a great team that hires all these amazing assistant coaches, and then the next year those assistants get hired by other teams as head coaches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I want. Yeah. So Roy, explain the Roy Haynes school, because I'm a non-musician, and yet the dude had his own concept of just how to keep time on the kit, which meant that ultimately new vocabulary was being created on the bandstand in the moment.
Yeah, well, him and my dad, they worked together with Sarah Vaughan.
That's right.
So that's where their connection was. And I don't know, Roy, he was pretty famous for, I went to his memorial, and then somebody quoted saying that he played with everybody.
He did.
Whoever it was, whatever it was, So, I mean, to him, it was just all music,
It's the Duke Ellington school, Yaka, it's like all music, man.
And well, my dad played with Duke as well. So.
Whoa. Something just flashed. Another cat that I wanted to ask you about, because your dad, along with Richard Davis, Senator Eugene Wright, there's a cat who I was trying to interview a few years ago, and he was really ill. And I talked to his wife, and she said it's just not going to happen. But I heard him play on a blue. I mean, it's country bluegrass music. Everything from that to jazz. And this cat Richard Evans. Did you know him?
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, brilliant.
My dad were tight in Chicago.
I want you, Yaka, this is really important. The reason you talked so eloquently earlier about Ron C., Richard Davis, Cranshaw, the list goes on and on. They were selfless. They gave away and they shared information. They shared instruments. They hooked you up. If they were out of town, you'd get gigs. That's because Richard Evans and your dad also were tight, because is it fair to say there was just enough work to go around? People weren't starving to death, so that there was this opportunity to share, as opposed to the studio seemed... Go ahead.
There was, but both Richard and my dad became arrangers as opposed to bass players, because they could make more money arranging.
Right.
And they were basically arranging, these R&B hits. They were making a lot of money on the radio and what have you. So it basically had nothing to do. The only playing that they had to do was the recording, And ultimately, I remember Richard ended up at Berkeley. I think he brought my dad up once, while he was there. But I was only at Berkeley like 2 semesters. And ultimately, I got a full scholarship to go to the conservatory based upon a trio that Gunther Schuller put together with me, Harvey Mason, and a pianist who I've never heard from again, but his name was Ron Franson.
You and Mason, you were at Berkeley at the same time?
Yes, we were.
This is because I interviewed Mace about 12 years ago, and he was like, this is unbelievable. You're telling me Gunther Schuller put a trio together with you and Mace?
Yeah, but we went to the conservatory, though. In other words, me and Mason, we were around the corner at Berkeley, and the conservatory was around the other corner.
Right.
So
Right.
And ultimately, it was, I don't know, we used to call Berkeley the chord factory because guys would, practice all the time. And most of the classes were just ensembles, And when at the conservatory, it was more of an independent study. You had ensembles and you had recitals, you had projects, but it was more independent than group,
This is wait. Hold on for a second. There's so much going on because when I interviewed Harvey, he talked about like with Alan Dawson. He, that was one of his major teachers, and at a certain point, Alan was like, "I really can't teach you much anymore. Let's just play games." So they do vibes and drums, but Harvey was getting gigs at Berkeley with different big bands. Going on tour, going to the Cape. I'm curious what Gunther heard. Was it Third Stream Music you guys were doing? What was this concept with this trio that you had that got you the full ride?
It was basically, Gunther was just the administrator. He didn't really have much to do with it musically. A guy named Carl Atkins was the head of the jazz department as he started it. So, we basically played whatever we wanted to play. And the music expanded from there. And if I, think about it seriously, I think we were only together at the conservatory for a couple of years. Because, as you say, George Shearing and some other people, they snatched Harvey like immediately.
Right away.
So
then that was commonplace. Yeah, exactly. Shearing got Mason, and the next thing you know, he wound up in the studios in Los Angeles. What about were you playing? That was kind of around that. Bitches Brew time. Were you guys venturing? Was it acoustic based, or were you venturing into the electric? Did you buy your electric at that point when you were at the conservatory?
Well, I'm telling you, Harvey, for instance, said that he was on a record date that my dad called him for, and he said there was a guy with a cigar who heard him on that date. And he said he gave him all of the work for the whole year at Universal just by hearing him on that one date.
On your dad's date?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So, for me,
yeah,
I played electric bass based upon the fact that a lot of people stopped traveling with the upright. The last few people that bought tickets for the upright that I played with were Jamal, Elvin Jones. I don't know.
Did you play with Rashid Ali?
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, you played upright with him in his band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, I played. I might have been Rashi's last bass player because I also played at his memorial.
That's right. Yeah.
Uh,
People stopped traveling with the upright because the neck would break or the plane they'd get damaged on the plane or whatever, or the bus. So the electric just became. I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road, though, Brother Pate, because Harvey kind of got, like you said, he got swept up your dad's date. I mean, I don't care if it was Laboriel or if it was Schofield or if it was Abercrombie. I mean, those schools, those jazz schools, Conservatory or Berkeley, there was so much domestic touring that a lot of those cats didn't even get a degree. They didn't even graduate. They'd get picked, and there was so much real work. What happened with you? I mean, I think if my memory is correct, I remember seeing you on this album with Roy Haynes and Hannibal on Mainstream. But this was like the early '70s. But did you go?
Haynes spelled backwards. Senya.
Haynes spelled backwards. Oh, I love it, dude. That is the great. Right. I still have not heard music like that since that time. That's still the most. That's progressive beyond belief, dude.
It's funny because when we were recording that album, Patti LaBelle was in another studio at the same time, and I think they were recording "Voulez-vous coucher avec moi" at the same time.
It's all music, right? You know, it's unbelievable.
Right.
So when you're at the conservatory, the trio goes for a little while. Then where does Yakag? Did you get picked up by a band leader, or did you go straight to New York?
Well, I was always in New York. I first came to New York to the World's Fair when I was in high school. I guess I was 15 or whatever.
It was like 64?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad was already here. So when I came to the World's Fair, I stayed maybe an hour at the World's Fair because I was able to shadow a lot of things my dad told me to do. At the time, Cannonball Alley was recording a big album, big band album.
Wow.
So I was able to go to that. And then I came downtown and, the gate had Ahmad and Miles at the same time.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me, dude?
And the
oh my God!
The Monday night band at the Vanguard was all stars basically.
Right.
You know, anybody that you ever heard of, or either they were in the band or they were sitting on the sideline waiting to sit in. So, you know, it was like. That's when I basically became hooked, you know, on the music.
Can you talk? Was that rhythm section with Cannon, McCurdy, and Booker, or was that a different big band rehearsal you saw?
That's what that was.
Yeah, because Booker used to have Walter Booker took in all the cats, man. He had his own. I'm sure you went to that. I mean, he.
Yeah, Boogie Woogie.
Yeah, I mean Miroslav when he came to all the Ayerto. I mean, he brought all those cats in there.
Right. But I was tight with Booker, and you know, he turned me on to various things as well. He just had a studio situation that was almost 24/7 in terms of cats hanging and stopping by and rehearsing and what have you.
Okay, so you go to the World's Fair in '64. You're already immersed. Your dad's already. First of all, your dad. Did you know Grady Tate, by the way?
Oh, of course.
Oh my God, So, dude, Yaka, man, I cannot believe how lucky what a life you've lived, man. What was did you actually because you were going to the Vanguard, you know, the big bands were there, the gate, top of the gate. You know, I don't know, were you going to Slugs a lot, or was Slugs in exist?
Oh,
Yeah.
I played at Slugs, you know, with Roy, and I also played with Joe Henderson.
Oh my God.
And besides Slugs, there was another club, almost like a sister club, called the East Village Inn, which was only a few blocks away.
I've never heard of that place. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, you know, it was music everywhere, really.
So I'm going to venture a guess here and say that, like you said, you were at the conservatory, but you said you were always in New York. What was your first gig in New York?
My first gig in New York, I'm trying to think. I want to say it was with Roy, but I don't know if I even go back to recalling what it was.
Wait, hold on a second. Because no, Senya was like 73, but you were already ensconced. I mean, you were already a pro at that point, right? I mean, you were already in the Union 802 and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Union was a place you went to go get your check if you didn't get it. for me.
No, because, you know, it's funny because I interviewed Ahmad. I'll send you that interview because he said he was in the Union at 10 years old. You know, and but no. So my point is that when you were checking out, I mean, in '64 you were 14 years old. Did you have gigs in New York before you actually went to Berkeley or the conservatory, or only after?
No, only after.
Yeah.
Yeah, only after.
So how did you make the original connection with Brother Haynes?
I saw Haynes in Chicago at the London House. This is funny. And he was with Stan Getz, and the band was Walter Booker, Chick Corea, and Haynes.
Walter Booker was in the band, not Steve Swallow. It was Walter Booker.
Right.
Holy cow!
But I met Steve Swallow later with Carla Bley.
Of course.
When I was,
you were, dude, Yaka, you were everywhere, man. Everywhere, dude. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Hold on. So you met Roy. You went to the London House. You saw that legendary quartet, and then he was like, "Why don't you come down to New York?" Or how'd that all work out?
Well, I mean, it was a case of, you know, he knew my dad, so anytime anybody knew my dad, I'd, you know, go introduce myself, and I would tell me either I was adopted or ignored. You know.
I dig. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So ultimately, I would just travel to go hear these bands, and ultimately, you know, you'd hear about people coming and going to better gigs or better places, or even dropping dead, you know. So
right. So you go down to New York, and what was the working band that you were in with Haynes? You playing the East Village Inn, Slugs.
The band that you mentioned
with Hannibal.
Hannibal. That was really the first one. Okay, now that you're bringing me back to it.
Yeah.
One of my first gigs was one of Central Park Summer Thing gigs.
Oh my gosh!
And that was with Archie Shepp.
Oh my gosh!
And ultimately, from that, that took me to my first trip to Japan. And it just kind of spread, you know, from there. But yeah, that was really the first. Actually, that gig, and we were doing Jazzmobiles like with Roy Haynes. No.
No, okay, I want to be clear because I believe those, like, you'd be like in a wagon going around the city playing music. Is that? like these Jazzmobiles?
Well, basically the stage was the wagon, but
right.
You got there however you could get there, and we were at our Grant's Tomb was our headquarters. That was basically where we played. Once in a while, we play on the street in Harlem, but Grant's Tomb was basically the main stage.
Wow. So you would go, you'd play that, and then it was just sort of open to the public, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. This other cat just popped into my head, and I know you definitely knew him, and probably early on was because of the Archie Shepp connection, was Howard Johnson.
Oh yeah. Well, see, I knew Howard from Gil Evans.
Exactly. And when did Gil come on? So you get down to New York. Where were you living, by the way? Were you living down in the West Village?
Part of the time, but I lived a whole lot of places. I mean, basically, I was driving, and I lived in New Brunswick in New Jersey.
Wow.
For a while, and I would just drive to Manhattan every night.
It was not a lot of traffic back then. It was easy to get in there. Yeah,
and at the same time, living in Jersey, I didn't have to worry about parking either.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Your dad did he work at Brunswick Records? Was he down there too, or was he just fully ensconced in New York?
Well, he was an A&R man for ABC and Verve.
Exactly. No, because I remember that record. There's that record. It's called it's a Sound of the Slave or something, and it's Grady Tate. Produced by your dad. I think Gary McFarland did. I got to look up that album. But that was so he was living in New York City. Your dad was.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, I don't know what you'll get, but I mean, I can give you my dad's number, and you could try and talk to him.
Oh, I mean, dude, we're definitely gonna catch a hang. But so you would go in every night to the city, but you weren't necessarily, because the Gil, there was musicians housing, rent-controlled housing on the Lower West Side of New York and stuff.
Right.
But you were in Jersey.
Right.
And you'd come in, and did you ever get to see Coltrane play?
Oh, yeah. I did. I saw Coltrane at the Plug Nickel in Chicago.
Oh my! With the quintet or with Tony and those cats?
With Garrison.
With Garrison.
Yeah.
Can you talk about Jimmy? I mean, these guys are larger than life. I mean, to me, this is where humanity intersects with love and spirituality. I mean, those guys were. I mean, this was well past Train's R&B days. I mean, I know him and Cannonball, Sonny, they all started in R&B bands. Walking the Bar,
right.
And then obviously they moved into this sort of. I mean, it's similar music that you continue to carry on with Rock Alarm and Bapuji and all those cats. It's this free will, man. It's free will, and it's just cutting. Yeah. It's cutting loose and not being untethered. And I just was that the Train, seeing Train and those cats. Do you feel like that was an antecedent for you to become untethered from the rules that society or music says we should live by?
Well, I mean, Roy was always encouraging us to do everything else that we were doing, because he came up with, playing with Sarah Vaughan and Carmen McRae, and he said him and Elvin Jones were tight, but they were both playing with Train. So,
this is unbelievable, man.
They ultimately, people would get gigs and they want to make both gigs at the same time. So who was going to be on a gig would really be up to the individuals. But basically when the music was happening, they didn't care who came. You know?
That's really amazing. I mean, you did have to have your stuff together. I mean, but I mean, DeJeanette told me that he played with Coltrane because before the third set in Chicago, Elvin got arrested. they needed a drummer. So the owner's like, all right, you know, this guy really can play, and they didn't say anything. They just let him come up there, and he said it was sanctified, man. He said it was like a sanctified church in there.
Yeah.
It's getting higher and higher. So you saw Train. How quick? When did you get a chance to play with Elvin?
I played with Elvin. It's funny because it happened kind of like last minute. It was me, John Hicks.
Oh my God, the beast, man! The baddest cat, man.
Yeah. Who basically got me in, and then he left. He left because the way that Alvin's schedule was, we were playing New York, and then we went to Los Angeles. And basically, when we got to LA, the band changed. Instead of Sonny Fortune or Pat LaBarbera, it was Harold Lands and Wallace Roney.
Jesus, Harold landed with Elvin and you? That's insane.
Yeah, we did, the club with the woman's name.
Oh.
It's still there. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, the Barbara Morrison.
Well, I mean, it'll come back to me, but
no, but I mean, this was clearly like more like late 70s, early 80s kind of thing. Right. I want you to, before I forget, please tell me the Sly Stone story and how that fits in with where, you know, I mentioned, because I saw that before, like literally when I talked to you and then I was like, give me 5 minutes. I was like looking online and I just see a picture of you with an electric bass. And I was like, geez, that is ridiculous. But tell me the Sly Stone story.
Well, the Sly Stone story kind of happened kind of sideways because I ended up in California. I think it was probably with, I don't know, I had just been to Japan with Roy.
Right.
And we had come back and Roy, we were playing the Keystone Corner. So instead of coming back to New York, I stayed in California. And Sly was just someone mentioned, you know, a record date or whatever, and I just happened to go. And as those things go, you know, different people sit in, and so that happened to me. And we were on I want to say that it was a PT boat where there was a Super Bowl party. Jimmy Webb, the composer,
holy cow,
he had rented the boat. But that was how I basically ended up with Sly. And nothing that we ever did came out. But I can remember Bill Preston being on one of the dates. And Sly was doing a song. The lyric was basically, your mama was a hippie. And I can remember the producer saying to Sly, well, Sly, it's not very commercial. So, you know, it's a great big party. And, I mean, nothing really ever happened from that. But it was something to do in between, I'll say, Roy. And I also, the other person that I played with from Detroit was Yusef Lateef.
Oh my gosh!
So
you didn't know any of those cats from Detroit when you were growing up with your dad in Chicago. You just met them in New York or whatnot.
Yeah, basically. In Chicago, Sarah when my dad was writing arrangements for him. And it was funny because it was the first time I'd seen, the glitter strapless dresses that they would wear. And Dinah was among those people as well. And what was notable about all of them is they would usually have different husbands and different Cadillacs.
Wait, hold on. You cut out there for a minute. Who were you talking about? I missed the group.
I'm talking about Dinah, Carmen, and Sassy.
Wow.
They all will come by my dad's for arrangements, and that's how that was my exposure to them. Even Curtis, Impressions, and all of them. They were all in the cars. Corvettes and Cobras. And
I cannot. Wait, hold on. Were you ever going down to McKee's Show Lounge or the Pershing?
The McKee's and the Pershing was where you, besides if it wasn't Ahmad, then you could hear Train there, and also Gene Ammons, the organ trios. The organ trios had like a life of their own. The other person that I play with was Larry Young.
Oh my! No, because I was going to say, who was a good friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in a minute. Did a bunch of interviews with him. Was the drummer Harold Jones, and he talked about Dinah Washington owning. She owned McKee's, and he was in the house band there. With it was these organ groups, it's just it's insane. Were you going down to the South Side to see blues as well, or was it you were kind of in that?
Well, I lived on the South Side, and as I think back, McKee's was situated almost right next to the Tivoli Theater, as well as down the street from the Pershing. So it was kind of like a little neighborhood circuit.
Wow. Do you remember, there's a couple, we're going to have to do set 2, Yaka, because there's so much more to get to, but I have to ask you, can you just talk honestly? You got to New York at a time when the studio scene was already pretty locked down. You were obviously an amazing player. The cats recognized that, especially the drummers. So you had a lot of live opportunities. But how hard was? Were you doing jingle dates? How active were you in the New York? How daunting was it to get into the studio scene, or did you just sort of say, "All right, I'm going to sing for my supper playing live"?
I wasn't involved in very many jingles.
Were you part of Radio Registry? I don't. This is to me because all these cats, whether it was Herb Bushler or Howard Johnson, Randy Brecker, they got ahead in life because of that stuff. But I just I don't see your name all the time. I don't see your name. That's why I freaked out when I saw Senya, because I was like, "There's Brother Pate, dude."
Well, Radio Registry kind of mismanaged me, and I ended up going with a different answering service.
Wow.
But I was programmed that was part of getting in, and
right.
Ultimately, I just did, whatever happens. I'm trying to think. Besides that Roy Haynes record, George Adams had a record called Paradise Space Shuttle that was a bit of a hit.
Dude, I had that. That record is ridiculous. That was on Muse or something.
Right, exactly.
Oh, my God. Dude, that is George Adams, man. This... Hey, Yaka...
And you mentioned before about walking the bar and playing.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing prior to Roy Haynes.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, those cats, man, their sound was from deep in the primordial gut, man. I mean, it was so beyond, and that all came from playing all that R&B stuff. Did you Yaka, do you think we could do set 2 this weekend, like tomorrow?
Sure, anytime.
You want to try like 12:30 your time tomorrow?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, man. Yaka, man, such a blessing, man. And much love to you. We'll talk. We'll do it again.
All right.
Be cool.
Okay, Jay.
Later, man. What was your spiritual or religious inclinations as a family growing up?
Well, growing up, I was in church every Sunday, and it's funny because both Kirk Lightsey and I were both raised AME.
Oh my! I cannot believe my brother Kirk Lightsey, dude. I cannot believe you just mentioned him, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was in Detroit, but I was in Chicago. So that means, you're in church every Sunday and you heard, choirs and organ players and pianists, the whole time. So
just for the record, what does AME stand for?
AME stands for African Methodist Episcopal. And it was founded by a cat named Richard Allen.
Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah. So
essentially, how did that? How is that different than? I mean, I just remember. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with the great trombone player George Bohannon, who was also a Detroit, Detroit cat, and he actually would walk to a sanctified church out a little bit outside the city and just sort of marinate in those rhythms that were not necessarily on 2 and 4. They could be on 3 and 4. People were clapping their hands. There was no trap set. I guess what I'm getting at is just like your earliest, if you could talk about your earliest understanding of pulse as opposed to...
Well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned sanctified because there were sanctified churches on most street corners in Chicago.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Going to and from, the organized church. The church that I went to was an actual building. But the sanctified churches were mostly storefronts with preachers, they were preaching, to their choir, etc. And the door would be open, so you could hear the music and see the people. But it was pretty, instant.
That to me would have been intoxicating. That's my kind of church, like that. Right. I mean, and honestly, like, was it kind of even within your community? Was it like, oh, don't go near that riffraff, or I mean, was the blue?
No. Well, they just basically, like I said, they showed up. Like I said, with Cadillacs and Mercedes luxury cars, and the way the offering would go is the minister would start his offering with motioning for $100 bills. So whoever wanted to walk up and put $100 bill in the offering plate, that's what the display was to start the offering. And they would go through, the denominations, hundreds, 50s, 20s, until they got 5s, 10s, on down to $1. And I mean, basically, this was just the Thanksgiving show.
Right.
Whoever the minister would give the speech, but it was all based around this offering,
And it was all based around essentially money too.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally around money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, did you, when you were younger, did you actually was there a storefront church that you enjoyed checking out? Did you get it?
No, not really. Like I said, they would be on, if you were taking the bus to church or whatever, you would pass 2 or 3 just along your walk to and from your church.
Right.
So they would just be there, and they'd be there pretty spontaneous.
Did you feel like how could you talk a little bit about your? I mean, Tisziji has, for me, I'm not a musician, but he has been a spiritual teacher for me almost beyond words. He's a healer. You know this better than anybody, and I just sort of look at people like that. They're saints that walk the earth, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you've spiritually how you've dealt with in this life. Like, you're still here, you're still incredibly productive, you're healthy, and but I don't think that you're like a dogmatic kind of cat.
We were friends before we ever played a note, and I used to go to his house for astrology readings.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
So, I mean, that's really how we began. I mean, we used to talk. We would end up on certain festivals, and on the same planes and trains and buses once in a while. But most of the time, we were in different bands, and ultimately, we ended up playing together because we met that way.
What were these astrology readings? I mean, you were going there to get some information from him?
Yeah. Back in the day, what is your sign? And what's your rising, and what house is it in, and Mercury would be in retrograde, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. No, I dig. And also, what's so insane is that after we got off the phone yesterday, I looked up your dad's discography, and he did this album, Scorpio and Other Signs, with Gary McFarland, which is absolutely insane. There's two cats. So do you remember what the first time that you crossed paths with Tisziji? Like, even if it was just in different bands or on a bill?
To be exact, it would be hard for me, but we both agreed. I think I was playing with Roy Haynes, and he might have been playing with Pharaoh.
Right.
And the fact that Pharaoh was on Flying Dutchman Records, and Roy was basically on Milestone, but we were all basically recording in the same places. So, I mean, that's really how our paths crossed. And in those days, the sets, were longer and later.
Absolutely, yeah.
You could leave the house between midnight and 2 and still hear music at least until 4. And that doesn't exist anymore.
It definitely does not. Like, you think that it was like more like late 70s? I just remember Tisziji saying that's kind of like the Tin Palace days of Pharaoh.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then ultimately, like, how would you describe playing with him? I mean, to me, it's like it just feels like a very high frequency, and it's the same that would have been the case with all the masters. But in Tisziji case, it goes beyond the earth realm a little bit.
Well, initially, when I first started playing with him, these motherfuckers. And I found that it became like a case of you consider yourself in a traffic jam, and either you end up dancing with them or you get run over.
Yeah, but but hold on. If it's a traffic jam, then there's nothing moving, right? I mean, right. But I know what you're saying. You got to dance within the cracks or something,
Right, and people will often ask me, what do I play when there's, other bass players on tracks or whatever at the same time. And I personally say that I'm trying to go the opposite direction of everybody else.
Exactly.
I'm trying to play what's not being played, as opposed to duplicating or imitating whatever else everybody else is playing. So, I mean, that in itself gives you a lot of room, you know.
I think it's so well said, man. I mean, do you actually... That was not uncommon, especially with, like, Pharaoh's records. He'd have Cecil McBee and Richard Davis on the same date.
Right.
Do you have a memory of playing with another upright bass player in the studios early on?
Well, we do it pretty often at Bradley's.
Right.
And most of the time, it would be myself and Santi Debriano.
Wow.
But most of the time, it was about availability and who was going to actually make either the next tour or the next gigs, you know, that kind of situation. So, I mean, Kirk was just kind of, like I said, he was into having whoever the next man up.
Dude, that's buggy.
Ready to go.
Hold on, so I want to be clear. When did you first cross paths? Because Lightsey went to New York with Melba Liston, I think, from Detroit. But I mean, when did you? That to me is so classic that you brought him up because, I mean, what a legendary character, man.
Oh yeah. Kirk is another case of somebody who we were friends before we ever played a note. And I used to go see him all the time until ultimately the substitution situation came up. And it just happened to fit. It just happened to click. So for many years, I don't know. I just by default of whoever wasn't available, I ended up on the gig with Kirk. In most situations, we went to France pretty often, to the south of France.
In like Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the hotel was called Ambassadors or whatever. So we played in the same place 2 or 3 times.
Oh my! I'm glad you brought that up. Like, were you? It just seems like you were everywhere at the same time with so many different cats. But did you? I know. Did you ever get to play with guys like Roy Brooks?
Oh yeah, I played with the Artistic Truth. Was what he was calling the band.
Oh my! You were in that band?
Well, I mean, I was a sub.
Right, you were next man up kind of cat, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I knew Roy.
Because I mean, he would play with like a saw blade. I mean, listen, that dude was. Because I know him and Lightsey were Detroit cats together, you know.
Right. Well, another drummer that played the song, Eddie Moore.
Oh, wait, slow down, dude, because you're getting real. No, because now you're getting into Merle Saunders territory, you know.
Yeah, well, I played with Eddie with Sonny, with Sonny Rollins.
Oh my God!
So that was my connection. That was my comfort zone in terms of Sonny. But for the most part, Sonny didn't like the band to be too strong. He liked I would say a diluted version. I mean, I don't know if that's ego or what, but he would rehearse shit and then not play it on the
gig. Dude, that's right. I love it. He'd call different tunes, right?
Right, exactly.
Dude, I mean, so how but I mean, you're as a pro, how do you? I mean, after initially being maybe a little bit like freaked out, like how would you handle that? You just sort of just have to open your ears.
Yeah, just like with Tisziji, you
dance or you get run over.
Ears.
Yeah.
You have to trust your ears and go with wherever it was going. And to know who to follow helps quite a bit as well.
So you and Eddie would kind of like give each other a little look, like, okay, we didn't go over that tune, but let's just use our ears and sort of lock into a groove.
Well, that as well, but I remember Sonny one time. A photographer took a whole bunch of pictures, and Sonny says to me, "What did you mean when you looked at me like that?" And once again, it would be a case of I might not have necessarily been looking at him, but as I'm trying to reach inside myself to come up with something to play.
Right, right.
That would be compatible. So
I want to be clear though. When you went, I forget who it was with. Now, when you went to the Keystone Corner, and then you decided to stay in California, did you wind up in the Bay Area?
The only time I was in the Bay Area was when I was recording with Sly, or at the Keystone, or at another place.
What was it, like the Both And?
No, the Both And was prior to me. The Great American Music Hall.
Wow.
Played that with Jamal and Son.
Wow. So when you stayed in, so you that Super Bowl party was on a boat out in like Sausalito or something, or San Francisco.
Yeah, well, basically, went from LA to Frisco.
That's so what a classic story. But none of the stuff that you did with Sly, it was just demos. It never got released.
Yeah, no, it never came out.
When you were in LA, can you talk about how you kind of got into whatever scene there was there? I mean, there was Larry Gales.
The way I ended up in LA was I auditioned for a gig with Lou Rawls.
Whoa. That is deep, dude.
And not only was I the only black bass player auditioning, I was the only person there that could read. So that's why I got the gig based upon that. And I also ended up playing with Donna Summer as well. But both of those gigs were just fillers in between, Roy and Sonny and Ahmad and whoever else I was playing with. I mean, I'd say I was going to LA for the weather, from like November to March.
Oh, absolutely, man.
And I'd say, I'll take Manhattan broke and guessing as soon as the weather changed. And I come back to New York and end up, on a tour with somebody. So it worked out pretty good. So
you actually were you playing like, was Lou Rawls primarily like popular? I mean, you have to excuse me.
Yeah, it was totally pop. The closest thing he came to jazz was, Tobacco Road and Stormy Monday Blues.
But I want to be clear, his audiences were primarily white audiences, right?
Not when you went to the ghetto, not because we played, Chicago, Philly.
Oh
DC.
My dude, that must have been the cool. I mean, it was a kind of a formula trip, but you're telling me, like, would you play the Bijou Cafe or something in Philly? Where would you play?
Well, in Philly, we played in Peps. And
Yes.
Other places. But what was funny about what happened with Lou was he had these tours that was going to be like totally military bases. And when we came back to New York, we played the Beacon or somewhere, and the band was the Monday Night Band, Mel Lewis.
The Village Vanguard Band, yeah.
Right. So when I found out that we were going to be doing these military bases, I had a beef with Lou about what the bread was.
Right.
So we went to Bermuda. We were going to be in Bermuda for a few weeks. And I finished the gig in Bermuda. And then I decided I was going to split. So I wrote Lou a note that said, broke. What did I say? Broke, sick, got a session. and I got off the plane and auditioned for Ahmad Jamal and got the gig immediately. So that was interesting because I played the same two places with both Ahmad and Sonny in Vancouver and in Ann Arbor. And I'm trying to think, there was one place, I think it was Ann Arbor was the same place that we also played with Lou. But for the most part, Lou was on the pop scene, and it was usually a concert or theater, whereas everything else with most of the other guys were clubs.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I mean, even not that you were pretty busy. I mean, you were out in LA for the weather. You had some of these filler gigs, but did you ever cross paths with guys like Horace Tapscott or Bobby Bradford or some of the more free jazz players?
Yeah, I knew those guys.
You know everybody, Yaka. Everybody. I mean, you're like the great. I mean, this is the greatest, one of the most fun interviews because you literally know Eddie Moore. I mean, it was just like, is it fair to say?
Did I get to the part where I said that Eddie Moore played the saw?
Please, no, I need to hear the story because Eddie Moore, dude, my hero, dude, and God bless him, he died on the bandstand, right?
Yeah. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and honestly, it was I listened to he's one of my favorite drummers, and I believe he was cousins with another classic cat was Merle Saunders, the organ player.
Yeah, I think they were.
Yeah, go ahead. So Eddie played the saw with Sonny, or how did?
Yeah. I don't know if you know it or not, but the saw. The first time I ever heard the saw was in church.
Talk about that. No, I need to hear about that.
Ministers played the saw just like, the organ or any other instrument. And there were only, a handful of people that could do it. So that's the first time that I became aware of the saw, as an instrument that could be used, I guess, for both gospel and jazz.
Yaka, you have to go a little bit deeper on this. You mean like you didn't play it as a percussion instrument? How did you play it? How did they play it?
They played it in terms of
like waving it in the air and getting some sort of timbre, or like what? This is amazing.
Well, it was melodic. And we were in the regular quartet setting. There would just be a song or two or whatever that they would feature, that he would feature Eddie. Oh. And Eddie, however he would do it, he would incorporate it into opening and closing different aspects of what he did. We used to call Eddie the Black Orson Welles because of how he laughed. Him and John Hicks both had a laugh that reminded me of Orson Welles.
You're talking about, I'm sorry, who was the other guy? Johnny Hammond Smith?
No, John Hicks.
John Hicks, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that
the laugh was sort of like that kind of thing.
I dig. I love it, man. Yeah. I was gonna ask, between Yusef, Sonny, Ahmad, obviously, we're talking about, three amazing leaders, but I just kind of wanted you to talk about, this is sort of what I was alluding to early on with the Sanctified Church and the rhythms, but it's the idea, Yaka, of not playing time, but knowing where that pulse is, and then playing around that pulse, so that essentially, like with Elvin, I mean, it was like sheets of sound. But it was like you were those cats were playing through time, but yet the pulse was always there. And
well, Roy taught me about on the beat, behind the beat.
I love it.
And
A little bit on top of the beat, yeah.
Yeah. So, and also back to the religious part, Yusuf was the person who gave me a Koran.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, but he did that for everybody in the band. That was one of the
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But he wasn't really preachy with it. As far as he went, he would ask you don't bring any alcohol on the bandstand. But otherwise, he didn't care.
Did you get a chance to go to? Have you ever been to the motherland before in Africa?
I went to
Senegal.
Lagos.
You went to Lagos?
Lagos and Benin with Randy Weston.
Can you talk about that experience? Lagos is...
That was another experience that...
wow.
I don't know. I was subletting my son had just been born, so I was subletting the Brooklyn apartment, and we were like in Chicago, and I got this call to go to Africa, and it was so shaky that we didn't know, how much money we were making, and I don't know if you know the term honorarium.
What does that mean?
Honorarium is the case of them giving them whatever they want to give you.
Yeah, this is what we want. This is what we feel you get. I get it. There was nothing, right. It could be 5 cents, you didn't know.
And it's interesting to know that you mentioned Senegal because the past couple years I've been to Senegal with Roy Haynes' son, Craig.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I know Holiday Haynes. I love that cat.
Yeah, so, and those were just quickie gigs. Like, we played for Royal Air Maroc. I would say they were the corporate sponsors for the tickets for the gig. And usually we would play, like, either in a club or a beach or whatever for them, which was a private party. And then we would play in the park. They call it the park in the dark for the Africans outside. So, basically, we would fly over for 2 gigs and fly right back. But
the Lagos. What was that Lagos experience like? That must have been amazing.
It was because
you got paid. I hope you got paid a little bit. Yeah.
At the time, Fela was still alive.
Yeah, I knew it.
So we got to go see Fela, but we only got to go because people that were supposed to pick us up and take us didn't show. So Randy says to me, "Well, Don, what are we going to do?" I said, "We'll take a cab just like we were in New York."
Let's get the cab. Yeah, so right. No, what?
That's what we did.
Wow.
And it was great,
You went to the shrine to see him?
Yeah, went to the shrine.
Oh my gosh, that is insane.
Yeah.
No, because I know that Stanley Cowell, when I interviewed him, rest in peace, he used to go with Max Roach, Charles Tolliver to see. They had developed a relationship with Leopold Singold, the leader of Senegal, because there was just a lot of whitewashing of history and a lot of brainwashing going on, and they were trying to, educate their own people on what the real history was, and that to me is like. I just wonder about that whole, that whole concept of, I just remember John Hendricks telling me, he's like, without the Sicilians, there'd be no jazz in America. Like they really recognized people of color for their genius. They paid them well. They gave them gigs, and I just kind of wanted you like that. You've played so much music in your life, and it's all music. But that word jazz, can you just talk about that? How you feel about that word? Because I don't know if you did. You ever, by the way, did you ever play with Big Black before?
Play with Big Black. Was tight with Leon Thomas, who I worked with.
You worked with Leon?
Yeah, I worked with Leon. In fact, that could be where I met Tisziji. I probably was with Leon, and Tisziji was probably with Pharaoh.
That's right.
And they both were on Flying Dutchman.
Yaka, were you recording with Leon on Flying Dutchman? I feel like you were on something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of albums.
Oh my God!
The last one that I know about was his greatest hits.
Right, I know. I've seen because those sessions had 2 upright bass players on most of those sets. It was insane.
Well, I'm playing Fender on most of Leon's cuts that were blues oriented, and it was a case of, like I said, I think Ron couldn't make one or something like, so it just went down like that.
No, dude, Yaka, man, this is so. First of all, before I forget, I need to ask you about these 2 cats. I got off the phone yesterday and I look up your dad and you, and it's like, first of all, your dad arranged the greatest blaxploitation soundtracks in the world, not just Superfly. A lot of stuff, and one of them was called "Brother on the Run."
Yeah, I'm on that.
Yeah, you are, and it's so. And the 2 guys, and I know that they. I shouldn't speak for them, but they're gone. They've passed away. But
Mtume.
Well, no, Mtume was. I didn't know he. The 2 guys I wanted to ask you about were Joe Beck and Donald McDonald.
I knew Joe Beck better. Donald McDonald was, just an occasional somebody that I spoke to, but I used to run into Joe Beck before I got to Bradley's, before I got to New York, and he would be playing Bradley's with Terry Thornton, somewhere in the night.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, there's an album of his with Red Mitchell at Bradley's.
Right.
But actually, and he had that milk. He had the big farm up in upstate New York. I just see you guys in like, I saw. Yeah, Donald McDonald was. He was doing his own thing. I mean, but Joe Beck was really quite an amazing player.
Donald McDonald was a minute by minute guy, along with.
You mean the Doobies?
Well, the Doobies. Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah.
But the other guy.
Well, no, Michael McDonald is the minute by minute guy.
Okay.
Yeah, Donald was the drummer on Brother on the Run. Donald McDonald was a studio drummer in New York City.
Okay.
Did you know at the time? I mean, this is kind of an interesting question, but I mean, were you on Shaft, by the way, too?
No, I'm not on it. I was around, but I'm not on it.
Did you guys recognize that you were creating a new musical vocabulary at that time, or was it only in hindsight when these things became so glorified after the fact because crate diggers were spinning I mean, there's so many samples on your dad's work from that early 70s period, and I just wonder...
Right.
Like,
well, I think I don't know what happened on the initial Shaft, but whatever happened, I guess they resolved it with Shaft in Africa.
Right. Well, because because originally the first Shaft came out on Stax Records, which is out of Memphis, right? And and so he did Shaft, but I mean Superfly. Like, what was that like? I mean, was that stuff you were hearing on the radio when it came out?
Yeah, I mean, basically, they were, they were touring, but they would rehearse and they would go in the studio. But my dad was always laughing. He said, because sometimes he'd still be scribbling in the cab on the way to the session.
Right.
And part of his challenge of writing for Curtis didn't read or write any music. It was all
feel.
Yeah, and it was all, from singing into the microphone, into the tape recorder, and adjusting the key accordingly.
Holy cow.
And I saw a lot of, that's how they did Donny Hathaway with Upchurch running most of the stuff. Upchurch was another genius who didn't read or write music, but he could play anything.
Dude, I'm so, I Phil and I haven't talked to him in a while, but I did 2 Cosmic interviews and he talked about, he was so modest, but man, you're talking about the studio, this stuff was going down in Chicago in the studios?
Yeah. But I mean, basically they were back and forth.
Right.
My dad was, he was leaving Chicago almost around the same time as me, as I graduated from high school. Like, he stayed like right until the end, but what happened was he became popular, became hot.
Yeah.
And it was just easier for him to function in New York. And then after he got to New York and he got hot, it became easier for him to function in L.A. So
I want to be clear. Because he basically was one of the founders of Kurt Tom Records. He was him and Curtis, and like would Curtis come to New York and they do some recording there too, especially the Superflies, that early 70s?
Well, you mentioned Richard Evans.
Oh my God, yeah.
Did you know Carl Davis?
Carl Davis?
Yeah.
No, I don't know that name.
Carl Davis was one of the producers. So, they were money guys. In fact, I was about to tell you the Donny Hathaway story.
Please.
They said they were recording Donny as fast as they could because they knew that eventually the Warner Brothers or whoever it was would find out how crazy Donny was.
Right.
And they would cut the money off. So they were trying to record him as much and as fast as they could before they discovered that he was nuts.
Wow.
So that's where a lot of that music came from.
That is insane. Did you know Upchurch in Chicago?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because he was talking. He was talking about going down to Market Street and be like blind dobro players playing, and that dude, and he didn't read or write either.
No, he just could play. He could play anything.
Well, actually, no. That's a trivia question that I often ask people: is who is the only 2 cats that played lead electric guitar and electric bass in the studio? Not played electric bass and electric guitar. One is Upchurch, and the other is Eric Gale.
And the other guy that basically didn't read or write was Wes Montgomery.
Oh my God!
You remember Moving West? You remember that album?
Oh my God! Of course.
So,
that's. Well, there's 2 cats I wanted to ask you about. One, deep in my soul, never met him, didn't have a chance, but he was dwelling in Chicago, was Monk Higgins. We're going deep in the bag. He was sort of in in like a concentric scene or maybe an adjacent scene to your dad, but I know your dad knew him.
Right.
And the other guy was became very famous with the Rotary connection is Charles Stepney.
Yeah. Well, they did. That's where People Rising stuff came from,
Wow.
And Minnie Riperton stuff.
Exactly. Rotary, exactly.
Yeah. So
what?
In fact, my dad is still tight with Minnie's daughter.
Did your dad? He became hot. He became the hot guy. And do you feel from like? Did he have a? I guess. What was his philosophy as it related to recording? In the sense that the thing that was magical about literally every album that you're on. I went back and listened to some of Senya yesterday. But everybody was hitting at the same time. There was very little overdubbing. And most of the time, there was a lot of good leakage in the studio. You had, things were mic'd, but it wasn't over mic'd. The drums, not every part of the drum was mic'd. So you had good leakage. And I just wonder, like, what was your dad's, was it different every time? Or did he come up with a sort of like the tenets of having a really good recorded record?
He liked having things done with as few takes as possible, and he considered like mixing and overdubbing as further sessions that should pay as much as the original sessions.
Wow!
So therefore, he would be like, if he wrote it right and they played it right, then, he couldn't care if they used it for tissue paper.
So, but I mean, if they wanted to, if the company wanted to do a lot of post-production, he wanted to get paid again,
right.
Same
right,
scale.
He did. Exactly.
Why?
So,
I mean, in your mind, can you just riff on the, like, I'm 47 years old. My generation and younger obsessed with post-production. Everything before my generation, there was a lot of pre-production or there wasn't a lot of talking at all. It was basically, let's just hit. And it was like the music felt so good. And there might have been some clams here and there, but it really didn't matter because everybody was just going to the cosmos and playing original stuff. It was you were able to commodify and actually sell some of a lot of this music, and now everything is based. So there was pre-production, but most of it was there was no post-production, and now today all it is post-production. I mean, how, in your mind, why did we get to that point? It was just the technology got to a point where we were like, oh, we can make everything perfect. But perfect doesn't mean that it sounds good or it sounds sterile. And I just wonder, like, I know listen, Tisziji not like that. There are certain people that, still have an old school way of recording, but you must have seen this in front of your very eyes. I mean, just,
Well, back in the day, a very important component were the copyists. So
why?
Because the copyists would be making, the music, sheet music for whoever had to play it, and which would mean that the scores would have to be a certain way, and the copyists had to have the knowledge of transposition from all of the various keys and different places that it may go. So therefore, my dad said if they had technology back in the day, he could have done more because it was less work. Well, with copyists almost had to be as proficient proficient as the arrangers.
Absolutely. I dig, because there was a lot of stuff to transcribe.
Yeah, and I forget who the main guy was. Sam somebody was the main guy in New York. And I mean, it was just a business.
Right.
When you mentioned radio registry, all of that was connected, you know.
I just love the fact that Yaka had a different service than radio registry. You're the first cat I've heard that had a different service.
Yeah. They, like I said, they screwed me up. There was another guy. I think his name is Don. It might be. It might have been Don Payton. Or
Don,
like
actually,
that.
Don Payne.
Yeah, Payne. Right.
Payne.
There you go.
Because I interviewed his brother Johnny Payne, and I always and then I was like, no, there's Don Pate. So anyway, they were calling the other cat. They screwed you up.
Right. So, and a lot of people don't know it, but I have a brother who's actually Johnny Pate Jr. But he's more of a teacher, arranger, pianist, coach type of guy. He wasn't a player for the most part.
I mean, your father's legacy, because he did the 5 stair steppers, he did a bunch of like incredible soul music, transitioning from acoustic soul to electric music. Obviously, Detroit had Motown, Chicago had its own thing. Then your dad got hot in New York and then LA as well. I mean, can you just talk a little bit about what you believe his legacy is to modern American music?
Well, he said that he ended up playing the bass because he was in the Army and he saw an ad for they were hiring musicians or whatever. So whoever was in charge talked him into playing the tuba, and the tuba led him to the bass.
Sure.
So he said he found out that he could write, and he said guys used to run from him when they see him doing his charts. But he said basically the Army is where he got the idea to go the direction of Duke and Basie and people, and him and Quincy were tight as well.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that. Did they meet in the Army as well?
Pardon me?
Did they meet in the Army, or did they meet somewhere else?
I think they met somewhere else. But the Army was a...
Oh, my God. The amount of guys... Upchurch, all these cats, man, their lives were saved because of the... I mean, your dad was a great writer, but, I mean, Upchurch tried out... He was going to be doing infantry in Vietnam. He was going to be... And he got in the Army band, and it saved him, dude. And that was true for so many people. And the Army, that was where they desegregated a lot of the bands,
Right.
But if you're and your dad, is it fair to say he's still doing some work today?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he scribbles. He has something that he scripts on that he calls "Why Did I Get So Lucky?" And it's I want to say more than 100 versions of it, but he basically said he said that he's retired for a long time, but he said when people deposit some money in his bank account, then he can start scratching a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, really, really, really heavy I mean, just a heavy family, the Pate family, man. What's your what are some of the gigs you got that you're looking forward to coming up, if at all, this year?
I mean, I'm like my the most adventure.
Yeah,
probably is with Tisziji. But I have a new grandson in Denmark.
wow.
So I tell people ask me, well, what am I going to do? I say, well, I'm going to chase him around the world and just watch what happens by being Gramps.
Dude, Gramps. I mean, my having my kids is by far the most cathartic thing in my life. If I'm ever a grandfather someday, I don't think it's such a beautiful thing. And honestly, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get out of this country for a while anyway, you know?
Well, I'm like Kurt Lightsey calls Copenhagen bass player heaven, because there's so many good bass players and instruments in that country. So I see it just in terms of my grandson being there and being a bass player as a case of, I've been accused of living a whole lot of places.
You've lived all around this world. You've been everywhere, man.
Right. But I've never stayed.
Right.
More than a few months at a time. So, it's basically. I just look forward to the adventure of whatever comes. Trying to stay healthy and alive and positive.
Before we wrap set 2, I'm glad. I just need you to talk to me about the first time that you connected or that you crossed paths with Rock-A-Lam Bob Moses, dude.
I knew Bob Moses used to live in. Did you know about the loft that he used to live in?
I've heard. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple times. I mean, what was it, down in the West Village or something? Where was it?
I want to say it was on 6th Avenue. Not quite Village.
And like Liebman would be there, or all the cats would be.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to tell you the floors were various cats, and at some point Liebman, Grossman, both of the Grossmans, Hal and Steve.
Yeah. Dave Holland.
Chick Corea.
Lenny White.
Also, I came up with Lenny. I mean, like, before that, just in terms of playing in Brooklyn.
What? Are you kidding me, dude?
We used to play.
Oh my God, this is making my day, man.
We used to play at the East in Brooklyn. In bands with like Carlos Garnett, Intume.
Oh my God, dude! This is so. This is so ridiculous, dude. Because the East was like, it was like a community education center,
Right.
And it was such a beautiful time, but that loft that Rock-A-Lam was staying in, I mean, it was,
It was headquarters for that kind of jazz, basically. And what's his name? Booker he had Boogie Woogie Uptown. He was Uptown. But they were like Midtown, and Booker, had some other stuff going on. So in those days, you could get stuck in a burrow.
Did you play gigs with Rock-A-Lam before Tisziji, or you just were doing the loft thing with him?
I hadn't played with him before Tisziji, but once again, we were always crossing paths. We were like, he was in DeJohnette's band.
Compost. Yeah, Compost.
Yeah.
Oh, that band
Yes.
was sick. I can't believe. I'm surprised you weren't in that band, dude. Jack Gregg was in that band, dude.
Yeah, I knew Jack Gregg.
I missed that. Is he left us? Is he still with us?
As far as I know, he's in Paris.
He's in Paris. That dude was a sick player. I mean, was like Cafe Wah or the Black Fat Pussycat? Warren Smith used to talk about that.
Right.
Did you?
Well, we recorded. Tisziji recorded the album that we did with Robbie and Pharaoh.
Right.
That was recorded at the Black Fat Pussycat.
I don't think I knew that.
I don't think it comes across in the credits. It might have had a different name.
Yeah, maybe that would have, because that was an amazing gig with, I think Schaefer was on the gig, and
right.
Did you know Schaefer when he was doing Saturday Night Live, or did you only connect with him after with Tisziji?
I didn't connect with him until Tisziji.
Right.
But I always knew Crenshaw and Steve Jordan,
Howard Johnson.
Howard, Hiram Lewis, those people.
Yaka, I'm going to end the interview, but I just wanted to ask you, do you think that you could hook me up with your dad?
Yeah. Let me call his wife and tell him